Good evening, everyone. This is David Paulides, and you're listening to the Missing 411 podcast. Tonight, we're focusing on an area that raises serious flags on my maps, the American Southwest, a region we've always associated with inexplicable disappearances. We often find these clusters near mountains, parks, or large bodies of water. But what happens when the anomaly settles right next to a massive military installation? We're examining two cases, separated by only a couple of months and mere miles, both occurring in the high desert west of Phoenix, Arizona. Two people vanished. One, a young, strong athlete, the other, a vulnerable woman, under circumstances that are baffling, even for us. This specific area, lying in the shadow of Luke Air Force Base, seems to be developing its own kind of vortex. And the official response to the search efforts, well, that's perhaps the most baffling part of the entire story. Our first case involves Stephen Gill, a young man, only 20 years old, living with his family in Whitman, Arizona. Stephen was a creature of habit, an athlete, healthy, and deeply familiar with his local terrain. On June 18th of this year, Stephen told his younger siblings he was heading out for a bike ride. He was on his black and red mongoose mountain bike. Stephen was known to ride for 10, even 20 miles, and he told them he would be back home by 2 p.m. But here's the critical fact that immediately sets off the missing 411 alarms. He left his cell phone and his wallet behind. When 2 p.m. came and went, his mother knew something was profoundly wrong. Stephen was punctual. He never deviated from his word. Stephen Gill, 6 feet tall and 160 pounds, vanished without a trace of struggle, injury, or distress. But the real investigation begins with the baffling search limitations imposed by law enforcement. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office allegedly told the family they couldn't use drones because of the proximity to Luke Air Force Base, just 9 miles away. But they also placed an unprecedented restriction on the use of K9 search units for that same reason. That makes no sense. I have never, in decades of working cases, heard a military base block the use of trained dogs in a search for a missing civilian. It suggests either extreme incompetence or perhaps a desperate attempt to conceal another, darker operational hazard in the area. Stephen vanished with his primary mode of transport, that black and red mountain bike. In almost every single instance of a mountain biker going missing, the bike is eventually recovered. It's too large to miss. The fact that Stephen and his bulky piece of evidence are both gone, that points to a non-standard disappearance. Something took Stephen and every piece of evidence he carried, less than 4 miles from Stephen's home. And just a couple of months prior, we find our second case. This involves 5 one-year-old Amber Bretches, whose car was found in the parking lot of the White Tank Mountain Regional Park. Amber and her husband were former park docents. She knew the park trails intimately. This was her safe place. Amber had a serious stroke years prior, and her family considered her vulnerable. But she was mobile enough to drive herself to the park. Her case has an unsettling history. Years ago, she had briefly vanished from a gym parking lot before being found under unexplained circumstances. A search was quickly launched in the White Tank Mountains. But here is the bizarre contradiction. Drones were used here, much closer to the base than Stephen Gill's location. Why the stunning inconsistency? Stephen's search was hampered by military red tape and denied K9S. Amber's search, virtually next door, used drones without a problem. It feels like the official narrative itself has been ripped in half. What is the truth they are covering up? 4 to 5 months have passed since Amber vanished, and despite hundreds of hikers, there has been no sign of her. If a body were out there, the elements, the birds, the intense Arizona heat, they would have given her away. The fact that the searches came up empty suggests she was not on the surface for long, or perhaps she was never there at all. In the missing 411 files, we look for patterns and connections. Here, the pattern is clear. 2 people, 2 months, 2 disappearances, all occurring beneath the heavy influence of a major military installation. We have to look beyond the ordinary. Think of other cyclists who vanish with their bikes, like Marty Legere in Nova Scotia. The object is too large to simply disappear. The question becomes, is it possible that the severe electromagnetic interference, perhaps from advanced radar systems or experimental signals at Luke Air Force Base, is creating a localized dimensional rift, a temporary tear in the fabric of reality that opens up in this desert area, swallowing people and their property whole? The military has a long history of strange experiments in the Arizona desert. The sheer power and unknown technology operating at Luke could be having an unintended side effect. Did Stephen Gill ride his bike across an unseen line, and was he instantly translated to an unknown location? And did Amber Bretches, perhaps already disoriented, follow an unknown path into the mountains, only to meet the same inexplicable end? The desert is a place that holds its secrets tightly, but these cases defy the rules of the terrain, when the search is held back by what sound like flimsy bureaucratic excuses. It forces us to consider a scenario far outside the norm. Stephen Gill and Amber Bretches are now haunting statistics. Two different people, two distinct situations, yet an unsettling overlap in location and a complete absence of evidence. We must look for the connections. We must watch for the next individual who vanishes in the shadow of that massive base. Because until that bike or those individuals are found, we are left to stare at the terrifying truth. Something is operating in that Arizona desert that does not follow our rules. Something that leaves no trace and offers no explanation. If you are in the greater Phoenix area, within 30 miles of Whitman or the White Tank Mountains, please check your security footage. The families desperately need answers. The truth is out there, somewhere. We just need to find the missing link. Thank you for being here. Be safe. Be vigilant. This is David Paulides, signing off.